Well, Nancy Pelosi is just minutes away from delivering the article of impeachment to the Senate tonight, with the trial set to begin the week of February 8th. But there are so many questions, Sean. We've been asking a lot of these in regards to the whole process, how it's being handled by Congress. Joining us to make some sense of all this is constitutional law expert and host of The Dersh Show podcast and Newsmax analyst and author of Guilt by Association, Professor Alon Dershowitz. Professor, we are so glad to have you. Welcome back to the show. Sean, I've been warming up for this all weekend long.
We're about this, an unconstitutional act by the Speaker of the House, who has placed herself above the law. She is delivering unconstitutional article of impeachment to the Senate to conduct an unconstitutional trial of a former office holder who can't be removed from office. So we're seeing multiple violations of the Constitution by a Congress who regards itself as above the law. They say, look, we have the votes, and if we have the votes, we can do anything we want. Maxine Waters, the congresswoman, said there is no law. There is no Constitution. We can do whatever we want. The president, he's not above the law, but we members of Congress, we're above.
Yeah. Yeah, the interesting thing about this, Professor, is I've seen a lot of constitutional scholars say, oh, well, there is actually some room for it. They give several cases. But to your point, Article 1, Section 3 in the Constitution literally says judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. And so your point, they are trying to push that aside and say that the Constitution doesn't matter. But how is any constitutional scholar able to say there is room somehow in the Constitution for this to go beyond a presidency, beyond being in office?
No, I agree with you. These are not constitutional scholars. These are zealous partisan advocates who use constitutional scholarship as a cover. If the shoe were on the other foot, I guarantee you, if President Clinton had resigned and then a Republican Congress tried to impeach him, Professor Lawrence Tribe would be leading a campaign to argue that this is clearly unconstitutional. You cannot impeach a president who's left office. Moreover, the First Amendment this and the Fifth Amendment this and the Sixth Amendment this. These are not constitutional scholars employing genuine scholarship.
But Professor, these guys, right, these folks keep throwing out these examples, and I'm sure you've heard all of them, in which they cite former folks that have been impeached. There's a case of a senator, and then there's this case of this other gentleman, William Blount, and the impeachment of the Secretary of War, William Belknap, that occurred in 1876. So tell me why those, why the folks that are not constitutional law experts, as you say, why they're wrong in citing those instances.
Well, first of all, they are experts. They're just abusing their expertise for partisan purposes.
Okay.
The Belknap case is a perfect example. So just like what's going to happen here, the Senate voted in a closely divided vote that there was jurisdiction. They were wrong, but they voted there was jurisdiction. But then they acquitted Belknap because there were enough senators who voted there wasn't jurisdiction to prevent the two-thirds vote from occurring. That's what's going to happen here. I make predictions all the time, and my predictions have always proved to be correct.
That's true.
I predict the Senate will vote to allow a trial, and then I believe there'll be an acquittal because there will be insufficient number of senators to get to the two-thirds, and most of the senators voting to acquit will be voting to acquit on the ground that there is no jurisdiction in the Senate. So you can't use the Belknap as an example. Belknap was acquitted because 23 senators said there was no jurisdiction in the Senate. There's never been a president who has left office impeached, and presidents are different. The Constitution treats presidents uniquely. For example, the Chief Justice must preside. It's been announced today the Chief Justice will not preside. He's right. And Kamala Harris will not preside. So we're going to have Senator Leahy preside. And the question is then, does he get to preside and vote? Will he preside fairly? How will he rule? How will the Senate rule? This is a total mess. And what's going to happen is, if in the event the former President Trump is convicted and is disqualified, this will raise questions about the legitimacy of the 2024 election.
Yes.
Okay.
People will not have an election where a group of Democratic senators with a few Republicans have denied the American public the right to vote for a candidate who they may want to see as president of the United States. So this has impacts beyond 2021 to 2024.
Yes.
And beyond that, we're going to see it establish a precedent, a bad precedent, that when presidents leave office, they can be impeached. Are we going to go after President Carter now, President Obama, President Clinton, President Bush? Or are we going to use this impeachment to prevent future people from running for office? It's not what the framers intended.
No, it's such a terrible precedent. I want to ask you one more question just on the case of Chief Justice Roberts not presiding over this case, which the Constitution clearly says in Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6. So does this make it unconstitutional now that it's Senator Leahy that's been announced today?
Yeah, but also, who do you object to? Does the Supreme Court have to step in now?
They don't have to step in. I think the Trump legal team option of trying to bring this case to the court now, or they can wait to see what the result is, and if there is a conviction, they can bring it then, or they could even ignore their Senate. And if President Trump wants to run again, he runs. And then if they try to disqualify him, there's a court case, and ultimately the Supreme Court will have to decide whether the Senate acted properly. But the Senate is not above the law. It doesn't have the last word on this. We do have a system of rule of law and government of law, not of majority of senators. This is exactly the nightmare that Hamilton feared. He said the worst danger would be to have impeachment turn on the numbers of people in the Senate and the House rather than on the Constitution and the facts, and that's what's happening here.
We're going to have you back because this is not happening for a couple weeks now, but there's so many questions that people are not willing to answer. Thank you for answering them for us here today. Always appreciate your insight and for sticking to the Constitution.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.